Hey, Catalyst crew. Welcome to Catalyst Corner, episode 109. I'm Evan.
I'm Jim.
We've got quite a bit on the plate today. We're going to talk about some movies. We're going to talk about a bit of a fumble in the entertainment world. And then some interesting casting news and a couple other bits on the show today. How you doing, Jim?
I'm hanging in there. I'm still going.
All
still
right.
kicking.
Hey, that's what we like to see.
You know,
you fight for every last ounce of oxygen, baby.
Still, getting through some medical stuff, but doing okay.
Yeah,
doing all right.
Good. So we're in a physical store now.
Yeah.
So that's
awesome.
that was a new experience.
Yeah.
First day setting up, getting all of the stuff in the store, whatever. Mm-hmm. Not 5, maybe 10 minutes after we started putting stuff on the shelves, made a sale.
Nice.
I'm like, Jesus, I can't. Am I not going to be able to keep this stuff stocked? What's going on here?
Right.
So very exciting. If you want to check that out, that's at Manchester Craft Market in the Mall in New Hampshire. Got a whole wall.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, very cool. So what have you seen?
So, and I'm really disappointed, and I guess I'm going to talk about this. I saw Hellboy, the Crooked Man.
Oh, you didn't like it?
This sucked in every capacity.
Oh, see, I disagree.
I hated everything. I hated the story. I hated the music. I hated the acting. I hated the physical appearance of everybody. I hated everything.
So here's the thing. I think I understand where you're coming from, I think. Low budget, for sure.
It looked like a fan-made movie.
I agree. It was definitely low budget. But for me, the tone of the movie, I was like, oh, cool, we're doing a horror Hellboy, which I think I want to see more of that.
Right.
And it's not the Chosen One saga, which I was like, oh, good. It's just the shit Hellboy has to deal with on the day-to-day.
Right.
So I like the concept, and I like the tone, because it was horror, right?
Right.
But go into how you feel.
Well, so I to me, like, even the comedy, it didn't hit, right?
No.
Like, it when Ron Perlman did it, the comedy hit.
Yeah.
Right? The comedy didn't hit.
But
like,
you got to figure, too, with Perlman, you had, obviously, Ron Perlman, who's a seasoned actor, right?
Sure.
And you had Guillermo del Toro, who is a great director.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that shit's firing on all cylinders.
Right, and certainly, but, that's what we're going to compare it to. So, I mean, unfortunately, it is going to get compared to the original.
For better or worse, like, the Hellboy, Perlman's Hellboy, the Del Toro Hellboy is sort of the standard that every Hellboy is going to get compared to.
And, you get to the Crooked Man, and besides bending your neck to the side, like, you didn't really have much. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't the scary monster that I was hoping for,
no,
right?
I thought there was going to be more for that, too.
Yeah, it was, like, really campy. And, just overall, I didn't, his physical appearance, he looked a little bit small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even the big fist didn't look like it was right. It just, everything looked off to me.
How did he look in comparison to David Harbour's Hellboy for you?
I didn't like David Harbour's Hellboy appearance.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
so this was at least closer to what Hellboy's supposed to look like.
I think that with David Harbour's, it was, that just the overall appearance didn't do it for me.
Yeah.
His acting was better. Obviously, I think David Harbour is a better actor than whomever this was.
Yeah, but with Magnola's Hellboy, he's kind of lanky. He is, but he's big on top, and then he thins out down the bottom, right? That's kind of how Mignola makes him. And I just thought that proportionally it didn't quite work for me. Yeah.
But I just think overall, though, it just looked like a bad fan fic.
Yeah, so I'll agree with you. The cinematography, the lighting, like everything that makes a movie, I think felt cheap.
Yeah.
I guess for me, the reason why
like, oh, this is a complete stinker. It's just more the comic book nerd in me was like, oh, yeah, like these are the Hellboy stories we should be sort of leaning to.
I totally agree that the horror, I
don't think the execution was done right.
No, and that's the thing. I like the horror. It wasn't scary enough, and the comedy wasn't funny. Like
and you're supposed to get
hit on
like
any cylinder.
You're supposed to get both of those things in a Hellboy book.
Exactly.
That's what you want. So I agree. I think that was definite. But again, I think the budget is what hurt it the most because there was nothing to do with headquarters really.
Right.
The real big scene was the train scene with the spider and then the crooked man and the zombies and stuff. I do give them props for the practical effects though.
Sure, absolutely.
It's just one of those things where it had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I saw the potential and that made me softer to it because I was like, oh, at least you understand, not every story has to be it's the apocalypse, They did that with Perlman's Hellboy, which is fine, no issue there. But then they did it again with Harbor's Hellboy, and it's just like we don't need world-ending events every time. Like a lot of the magic that's in the books is just him dealing with lower level, day-to-day sort of monsters.
Yeah, and what really, and again, Hellboy is one of those that I truly care about that character, right?
Right.
And I think that the Golden Army was better than the original Hellboy to me,
a little more polished.
Yeah, and then you've taken massive steps back, and I think
they wouldn't let him do a part 3, which was very unfair.
Right.
And now Perlman's too old, so the magic is gone on that.
Right, and Harbor's Hellboy was far worse, and this is far worse than that. And it's like I think that's it now. I don't think that you're going to get another opportunity to ever do a Hellboy movie.
Maybe in the animated space, we'll probably still get some animated stuff. But I think you're right. I don't know that we'll see another live-action Hellboy.
And thankfully, if you do the animated, Perlman can do it. You know what I mean? Because obviously his age won't matter, but...
and from what they've done of animated films, they nailed it.
Yeah, the animated stuff is great. The Perlman animated movies are just as good as the live-action ones, but... It was just, I was so looking forward to finally getting to see it because obviously it didn't come out in theaters, right? So we had to wait for it to come out. Finally comes out where I can watch it. And I was really looking forward to it. I'm like, I really hope. Because when we watched the previews, we were like, oh, this looks awesome, right? The previews looked really good.
The way the previews were cut, they really did do that sin where they take all the best scenes and kind of... And look, were there a couple of funny moments? Yeah, I thought the bit with the priest was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Like, there were their moments there. And I think for me, what it was is, as a fan of the comics, I'm sitting there going like, man, if there was actually some money... That was because you can tell there was no money thrown into this property.
None, and it was very evident that there was not a lot of money.
But I think
behind
I think that's what hurt it the most. I really do because I really feel like they understood.
I think that they had care for the project. I don't think financially they could make it.
Like I don't think they could
wanted it in their mind.
Right. I don't think they could afford. Maybe the right, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the writing is fine, and again, it's just the limitation of what you can show on screen.
Sure.
When you don't have a budget.
I mean, that could very well be it, and maybe a higher budget would have made it.
Because it was short too. That was another thing that it was short. So I'm guessing that was more of a victim of finance than it was bad writing or bad. Again, is he the perfect Hellboy? No, but what I do think he did well was like some of the scenes, of him sort of talking about things. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of see Hellboy. Like there were moments where I was like, okay, that's kind of a comic accurate Hellboy reaction.
Right. It's just, but again, if a fan-made movie, you could get the same thing
as a fan-made movie, I'd say, wow, good for them. They did some shit there.
But that's the thing, right? If your comparable is more of fan-made than the original two Hellboy movies.
Right. And I think that's really a bummer because Hellboy as a property deserves so much better than what it's getting.
Absolutely.
But I can understand that. I read a lot of the reviews after it because again, I read the reviews before, And I went into it with the bias thinking it was going to just be a complete dumpster fire. And then when I see those glimmers, I just kind of get...
But see, that's what turned me off. Because I saw the glimmers of what it could have been, and because we didn't get it, and now, like, to me,
well, I guess
you're not going to ever get it now.
Right. That's kind of the disappointing aspect. But for me, it's just like, well, at least there are people out there that are in the position of making films that get it.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why it doesn't, like, when I actually get to see glimmers of, like, a property, you know, that has so much potential, and I'm like, there's moments here where I'm like, yep, that could be a Hellboy.
Right.
But yeah, I agree with you fully. I don't think one, we're gonna get any more at least in the near future.
Right.
And two, I think if you're gonna do a property like Hellboy, you know, you have to throw money at it.
Right.
But you can't just throw money at it, because if you just throw money at it, you're going to get a David Harbour situation.
Exactly.
And if you don't throw money at it, then you're going to get the situation we're in with the Crooked Man.
Right.
So, you know, it's one of those things where you have to... the balancing act for a property like Hellboy is much, much, much harder to...
Yeah, and I think that, you know, if it ever sees the light of day, which I don't think so, Spawn would be in the exact same boat.
Right, Spawn kind of treads that line too, right? Is that it's really one of those things where it's a property you'd have to throw money at, but if you don't let McFarlane, you know, have say in it, it's gonna be a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and I do think that the writer and director had care for the property. I just think that they didn't. It was not executed well.
There was no money involved.
And so because of that, and because of the aesthetics, because of the way it looked, the way it sounded, I just think that, you know, it to me was an overall failure, and one that I know is not going to lead to any more, or at least anytime soon.
No argument that it was a failure. I mean, I guess for me, it's just one of those things where, you know, I think after I had saw it, because I remember mentioning to you that it was kind of campy and sort of fun, I think I was just so enamored with the fact that, you know, somebody actually understands Hellboy. You know what I mean? But I just think if you're going to do properties like Spawn or like Hellboy that require atmosphere and a lot of, you know, whether it's makeup or CGI, like the Spawn movie was not good.
No.
But the costume looked good.
Yeah, I mean, the CGI certainly at
the cape was bad.
Wasn't good, but the thing is they understood that the cape was a living, breathing, you know, it has its own identity.
But even with the Spawn movie, because I rewatched that recently, right? Even with not to pull off a Hellboy, but even with the Spawn movie, there are interactions in that movie, right? Like the clown at the birthday party. That's out of it. That's like that's what I'm saying is there are moments in the Spawn movie where I'm like, oh man, and the fact that they did lean heavy into practical effects, because even Violator, when he transforms, that's CGI, but the monster is practical.
Right. And again, you know, they didn't have the money behind it that was needed to make it really good and polished, but the hope is that, you know, if they ever do make another one, they would do that. And that's where I think that this one failed, is you needed that financial support to make it viable.
McFarlane is in a much different position than Mike is.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I mean, you know, he could leverage some of the...
Yeah.
He's got some pull.
Oh,
you know?
So most definitely.
I mean, would I like to see a Spawn movie? I mean, I would.
Sure.
I would like to. I mean, but not unless you're going to throw money at it and let McFarlane be a part of it, because you need.
Yeah, you have to have his input all the way through it.
Right, because he, you know, that's his baby. Like
right, he knows it. There's no one that's going to sit there and be able to outspawn McFarlane. Like he no one knows that character better than him.
But I mean, from what I read, like, didn't they have Mike on set?
I believe so.
So it's like, is that why it almost felt like there was care to the because like he was involved?
I think so. Yeah,
but there's just
believe so.
Not the kind of pull.
It's just that. But you didn't have the financial money to make it.
Right.
You know,
you do
really
the best
work.
you can.
You did the best you could, but it wasn't.
It wasn't enough.
It just wasn't enough.
Yeah.
But I did see a movie that was decent. And going back to animated movies.
Yeah, animated usually you do well.
I saw Transformers 1. Did you ever watch this?
So I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard nothing but good.
So it's not the 1986 movie, which is one of the best animated movies, right?
But it's not, again, like Transformers Now is just not the 1986.
If you take it as an original origin, right?
Yep.
And you take it, you have to look at it more as a young adult lens, right?
Okay.
It's not heavy, it's not deep, it's
not a world-ending event.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So it's hey, you know, this is Optimus Prime and Megatron
duking it out.
No.
Oh, they're working
friends.
together. Oh, okay.
They're best friends.
This is an origin story.
Right.
Okay.
So they're best friends.
Yeah.
Events lead to how they became who they became and how they became mortal enemies.
Cool.
Right. This is the so again, not true to
who did the voice of Optimus Prime? Was it
Hemsworth?
How did he do?
I mean, you know, it's not Peter Cullen.
I'm surprised they didn't get Peter Cullen.
It's Hemsworth.
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't know who did the name escape. There's a little bit, you know, Scarlett Johansson does I forget the name, the girl in the Transformers, right?
Yeah.
Right. A little bit girl boss, not horrible, but a little bit too much. Like, you know, you're a little bit. You think you're a little bit on the same level as Optimus, and you're not. Like, you know, nowhere in the cartoon and in the comics is that true.
Right. Like, I get it. You know, I never had a problem with sort of that, you know, you have the chip on the shoulder because you're hanging out in the guys club and you want to be one of the guys. So like you're trying to prove yourself. Like that type of attitude never bothered me. It's just that thing. It's just when they lean into that and then it's just like, but actually she's better than Optimus Prime.
Right. And that's kind of what it was. But besides that, Starscream was voiced by Buscemi.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting. How did he do? Good?
It wasn't in a lot, right? Not a big role, but it is.
Right.
It's the greatness that it's going to be, right?
Right.
But it was interesting. It was interesting how they were low-level miners, right? That working in the factory, and, you know, Optimus just sees more, right?
Yeah.
You know, Megatron would just kind of wanted to do his thing, right? He was fine where he was. He looked up to the guy in charge. You come to find out that the guy in charge really was working with the enemy. You know, that threw him where now Megatron has no trust, right? Everything he thought he believed in, he no longer believed in, right? So it became a thing where that kind of led to his rage. You know, and the thing is, they make it where, you know, only some could transform because they took away the mechanism that could transform them, and at the end everybody got it back and everybody can transform, right? But it's just, you know, Optimus is optimistic, right? So he's thinking, hey, you know, we can be better than this. Let's
typical Optimus Prime.
Right. And Megatron is like, you know what? Fuck everybody. Everything that I believed in for all these years has been an absolute lie.
I'm in pain. Everyone's going to be in pain.
Right. So, and I'm not going to. And the only person now I'm going to trust is me. And, you know, I'm not going to trust you anymore, Optimus. Like, if you're not with me, you're against me. You know, kind of that Sith mentality going. And, you know, that's what led to, you know, them becoming mortal enemies. So, I mean, overall, like I said,
would you like to see a sequel?
I would like to see a sequel of it because I thought it was well done. Again, it's heavy enough for a young adult, but not, you know, it's not overly adult where even younger children couldn't get into it, right?
So yeah, and I like that for I like that for Transformers.
Yeah, because it opens up that world to everybody, right? It's accessible to
let's
everybody.
Let's be honest, like the cartoon wasn't especially heavy.
No, no, absolutely not.
Right. So I mean, I think bringing something to a young adult audience and something that even kids could get into introduces the property in a way that's not threatening and still pays homage to the creation of it.
Yeah, and so now that we have they have Cybertron, it's all set. They've got all the cubes, right? Everything's good. Obviously, Megatron is gonna he left. He's obviously took so the whole group of them, Starscream and all of them, Soundwave, Shockwave, obviously went with Megatron. They followed him. All the other Autobots.
Yeah, the Autobots went with Optimus. The Decepticons went with
So now you could have a part 2 where now you got the battle. How does Cybertron get destroyed and how do they get to Earth? Right. I mean, you could have a second movie to show that next iteration of what happens and continue that hatred and continue that Autobot Decepticon war. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a well done, for an animated movie. I thought it was extremely well done. The designs of the vehicles aren't necessarily what they look like. They're a little bit more.
Yeah, but you can kind of play
updated.
That. You can play that a little fast and loose.
Yeah. But overall, you can tell who's who. As far as things go, they look enough like them.
How was the humor in it?
Good. It was good. You know what I mean? It was.
Yeah, you left refreshed.
Yeah, like it was funny when it needed to be. It was deep enough where it needed to be. And I thought I think that all the reviews that it got, all the positive reviews, are warranted. I thought that movie was absolutely warranted for the high marks that it got. And I would definitely say not only to watch this one, but I advocate most definitely for another.
Nice. That's good to hear, because it popped up a few times on one of my streaming services, and I was like, I've heard good things. I really want to watch that, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So I'll have to give that a watch.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? What have you seen?
Yeah, so I have a couple.
Okay.
So as you know, Popeye went into the public domain.
Yes.
So there are a couple of horror movies that came out.
I haven't seen them, but I know of them.
So one day I was working, I was doing some art, getting some product ready, and I have the double screen. So I was like, let me throw something on.
Yeah.
And I came across Popeye the Slayer, man.
Yes.
And it's bad, but it's kind of good bad.
Is it?
Because it's so stupid.
Oh, excellent.
They got a guy in a full body suit.
Yeah.
Like, the kills are just so outlandish. Like,
nice.
It's not good. Like, I would like Terrifier's good. Right. Popeye the Slayer Man is bad.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those ones where it's like, this is so fucking bad. Like,
yeah.
So, would I recommend it? No. It's bad. But
But watch it.
It's insane. So I said, okay. And then I'm scrolling and I come across Popeye's Revenge.
Oh, okay.
And I said, 2 Popeye horror movies in 1 year. This was bad.
Yeah, this was bad.
Because I had watched Slayer Man first.
Right.
And again, they made it look like Popeye, right?
Right.
So it's bad. And I'm just like, with the Popeye's Revenge, they gave him forearms, right? They gave him the forearms.
Yeah.
But it's just a guy.
Just with the big forearms.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a guy. Like,
just
it could fucking be anybody.
Right.
So I'm like, well, at least the other one was fucking.
Yeah, he looked like.
Yeah, he
Popeye.
looked like him. Like in this one, it's just like.
No effort whatsoever.
No, so I'm sitting, I'm like laughing to myself after it's over, because I'm just like, I can't believe I have a preference on which horror Popeye movie is better. But if you're going in for it,
who would have thought?
Go with
one day,
Popeye the Slayer Man.
You would have to be saying which Popeye horror movie was the one to watch, as opposed to which one was terrible.
Man. Popeye the Slayer Man over Popeye's Revenge. If you got to do it, just so you know. The other one I watched, Captain America.
The new one.
The new one.
Okay.
The new order,
Yeah.
New World Order, whatever the hell it's called. So I watched it.
Yeah.
Wanted to give it a. You know how I get.
Sure.
I don't just
give
want
it its fair chance.
Don't want to shit on things. Just want to give it a fair shake. It was. I would describe the movie as
Yeah.
would be my first reaction.
Mm-hmm.
What I think the biggest problem with this film, right? You would have had to have seen The Incredible Hulk,
Yep.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Yep.
right? And be aware enough that because William Hurt passed away, that they changed William Hurt's character to Harrison Ford.
Right.
So you're asking right from the swing of it. You're asking, that is a huge ask from an audience.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to say you have to see Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I get that.
Sure.
But Incredible Hulk is barely in the MCU. It wasn't made in the MCU. It was added afterwards. But that's a huge ask, I think, of people. So I think that probably, at least to me, was the biggest sin of the movie. Was just that that's a lot to ask of a casual movie go. Like,
Sure.
Did I know what was going on? Yeah, of course. I've seen all that shit.
Right.
But that was like the whole time I'm sitting there, I go, I wouldn't have known that was Ross. Like, I really wouldn't have. I mean, I know they kept calling him President Ross and stuff, but I think
but you have Everett Ross. You know what I mean? So just saying Ross, there's already two Rosses in the MCU.
So
it could have been any Ross,
right? And another problem, like with that whole situation, is the villain from the Incredible Hulk movie. So again, you're asking a lot from the audience, because as far as like Hulk movies go, someone that came in. Like, the way that I always frame it, right, is that Iron Man kicked off the MCU.
Right.
So if you're not in the Iron Man MCU universe, and Ang Lee's Hulk is not.
Yeah, but this isn't Ang Lee's Hulk.
Oh, this is the other one.
This is the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
See, I don't even remember.
Which was the second movie that came out.
Right.
Even though it was out by Universal.
Right.
You know what I mean? It still... It was, loosely attached to the overall, they made it more so as time went on.
But the problem is, right, the events in that Incredible Hulk with Abomination, that I'm back in it now, with Abomination and everything. I mean, it's so long ago, and there hasn't been enough world building. Because even with She-Hulk and stuff, like, there just hasn't been enough world building for you to bring sort of that property and just make me go, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
So that was a big problem. And then probably the biggest, there was a scene in it that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I think Sam as Captain America is in this movie is fine for the most part, right? But I'm of the opinion at this point, he really, he's been Falcon for a while, and now he's taken up the mantle of Cap through the TV show, right?
Yep.
He should be Captain America now. There should be no doubt in his mind that he's Captain America. He doesn't need any pep talks. He's the Cap.
Right.
And there's a scene where he has doubt. And then who comes to the fucking rescue? Bucky.
Yeah.
And that rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, if Bucky's the one that's pulling him out of the fucking muck, why isn't Bucky Captain America?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Which, again, should have been the case. But...
Right, but I guess my point to it is I'm cool with Sam being Cap, but he shouldn't be needing Bucky to pull, like, he shouldn't be needing Bucky to put his doubts to rest.
But that was already covered in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Like, you already had him doubting himself, and you already got through that.
Right.
And by the end, he had taken up the mantle and he embraced it.
Right.
I don't need that.
I don't need Bucky to show up again.
Right.
To be like, You got this, dude. Like, no. You should be your Captain America. No matter
Right.
what happens to any of your men, you're Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was I didn't like that. I mean, the CGI for Hulk was good. I thought
Yeah.
Red Hulk, the CGI on that was good.
Sure.
The fight was fine. I mean, it was decent.
Mm-hmm.
You did get a little Liv Tyler in there.
Yep.
I thought that was cool.
Yep.
I liked that. The end credit scene was lame.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a throwaway.
Yeah.
But again, I think the biggest problem with these Marvel films, especially something as big as like a Captain movie, is like it shouldn't ever be like I shouldn't be looking at my phone.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if I start looking at my phone, I'm like, you don't really have me.
Yeah. But this is, but this goes back to the same thing, and we've talked about this numerous times. I mean, it didn't work in the comics. It's not working in the MCU.
Well, it was in my opinion, it was better in the MCU than it was in the comics.
Sure, but the thing is that to me, you don't just pass mantles around. Like
No,
I
don't think you do
like,
either.
I don't think the thing is, like, look, I get your point of what you're saying, right? I mean, you've been handed the mantle. You have to, you already had your dealt with it,
right?
But
you I guess for me, you expect me to see the Incredible Hulk. You expect me to watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then I already know his doubts should be at rest.
I just don't think that I don't like the fact that I don't think he can be the Captain America to live up to Steve Rogers. I just don't
but that's the thing is that and that was the biggest problem in the comic books is he's not Steve Rogers.
Right. So again, he could be Falcon. Like, there's no different. He's no better as Captain America as he was Falcon. He was perfectly fine as Falcon. We all really liked him as Falcon.
Chris Evans didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, but take that aside. I'm talking about just by the comics. You know what I mean? Just by the comics itself, right?
Yeah.
He was already
like these are
Captain America's like second, right?
Right. So just have him stay as Falcon.
Right. Like him being Captain America doesn't make him any better and or worse than what he was. He could have been Falcon.
Well, I think the other half of it too, right, is that he's still basically Falcon, right? He just gets to throw the shield now.
Right. But the problem is that when you get compared to Captain America, because now you fall way too short of the goal. But you're a great Falcon, you're an awful Captain America. And that to me is a problem because again, Sam is great.
Yeah, Sam's a great character.
But he's not a leader. You can't just all of a sudden
but that's
become
the thing.
one.
And that kind of like I know they dealt with that in the show, but that's kind of the vibe of the movie.
Right. And so the thing is, you're talking about making him the leader of the Avengers, and it's like, but nothing he's ever done to this point.
Yeah, but if Bucky has to keep bailing him out, how can he be the leader of the Avengers?
Well, because he can't, because he doesn't have the ability to be the leader of the Avengers, because he's just not suited to be that. He's not a motivational leader.
And that's not to say that Bucky's the guy either.
No, Bucky is not the guy either. Bucky is
when
better
Bucky
suited.
But like when Bucky shows up in this, in that scene, I was like, oh, here's Bucky to set him straight. I was like, here's the guy that's actually fucking leading. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that bothered me. I shouldn't feel that way when Bucky shows up.
Right. The thing is, right, if let's say the Avengers get together, right, and Thor's standing there, and Doctor Strange is standing there, and Star-Lord is standing there. Do you look at that and say Captain America is the leader? Those three guys, to me, would be far more of a leader of the Avengers than Sam Wilson, Captain America.
Yeah, it's just, and again, I wouldn't say it was a bad film. It's not the worst Marvel film that I think they've put out.
No.
I think that subpar villain, definitely weird design change on him
that
too.
Was really weird.
I don't understand why they. And if you look at the early concept art, he looked like the comics. So very weird design change on that. Harrison Ford. I have mixed feelings about it because obviously Harrison Ford is a great actor, right? Mm-hmm. But you can tell he's so, like, I know he's not super into Star Wars. He really likes Indiana Jones and stuff, like, but you can tell he's so not into this shit.
Yeah, and he said it. I mean, he pretty much said, "Hey, I'm just here for the paycheck."
Right.
I mean, he can say it in jest, but
no, he was. And the thing of it is that, you know, he's such a good actor that it was one of those things where he brought as much of his acting skills to the table as someone of his caliber could. But the fact that he doesn't care about it enough to actually, like, he's not learning about what's going on. Like, you can tell he's just saying the lines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it works on a shallow level because you're getting a seasoned, excellent actor delivering. And, you know, there were moments, you know, he's calling Liv Tyler and everything, and, like, there's emotion there and all that sort of stuff that he's able to deliver.
But this is a problem to me that the MCU falls in all the time, right? Hindsight being 2020, right? Harrison Ford at the end of the day didn't save this movie. This movie was a massive financial failure. You didn't get anything from the Harrison Ford name to make this movie a success.
Yeah, but Harrison Ford's name at this point, right? Mm-hmm. Like maybe in the 90s, Harrison Ford would sell a movie.
No.
But like now, if it's not Indiana Jones or Han Solo, Harrison Ford is not selling tickets.
No, but my point being that you could have gotten, because Harrison Ford is 82 years old.
Right.
You could have gotten somebody in their 60s that can play this role for the next 10 years.
Right.
And even if they weren't the name value of Harrison Ford, the movie still would have produced the same as it did.
Yeah, but are we even going to get any more Red Hulk? Probably not.
No, maybe not. But I'm just saying you could have.
And that was another thing that kind of turned me off, is that I was like, oh, you introduce Red Hulk, which could be a banger in the future. Be cool to see him fight Hulk. Mm-hmm. And because you chose Harrison Ford, because he's older, you can't change the character again.
No, that's the problem. That's why I'm saying you didn't get anything with Harrison Ford. You could what you thought you were going to get by hiring Harrison Ford for this, you didn't get, and now.
Yeah, but what did they think they were going to get?
I think that they thought that people are going to go to this movie in droves because of star power of Harrison Ford.
Star power doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't, and that's the failure of the MCU. Part of their failure is it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't sell tickets. It doesn't put asses in seats, and so you could have gotten an actor who was still a good actor, still of certain name value, but somebody that could portray Red Hulk and Thunderbolt Ross for the next 10 years.
You could have grabbed Jeffrey Dean Morgan or something, throw a mustache on him.
Absolutely.
And then you got a younger guy who can do it, mm-hmm. who has the acting chops to do it,
right? Who
could do it for the next 10 years,
right? And so again, not saying that you're going to get more Red Hulk, but why not? Because you're right. If Harrison Ford dies next year, then now you have to
change him again, or just not, or that's it,
or write it out completely that you're never going to use it again, and that's a failure.
And the way they kind of, and not to spoil the movie or whatever, but the way they kind of ended that character arc is he got some kind of closure, right? Mm-hmm. So it's just like they used Red Hulk as a throwaway, and that sucks.
Right, absolutely.
That's a shitty thing to do because you didn't have a good enough villain,
right, in
this movie that you had to figure something else out.
Yep.
And I think obviously I'd love to see Chris Evans come back. And,
sure,
and
we will, and we will. He's
right.
It's pretty much already guaranteed that in Secret Wars he'll be back.
But I'm just saying, I think it's tricky with Sam as Cap right now. I think it's a tricky situation. It was fun to see him on screen. The fight scenes were good. The CGI was, for the most part, solid. Mm-hmm. There was, there were a couple of scenes where he's flying around over the water that were a little wonky, but for the most part, it seems like at least they got the CGI back on track,
good. Well,
which
that's
is
at
good.
Least the plus,
right? So it's one of those things where I'm getting more cautiously optimistic about things because it's like, okay, the stories are still kind of shit, but the stories are shit, but the CGI is getting better. So it's like they're making those micro changes that are going to, fix some of the issues we've had. Like to me, one of the biggest failures in the MCU is Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah,
because you have terrible story and terrible CGI.
Well, that's the thing is, when you're spending $300 million for these movies, you can have bad writing. You can't have bad CGI. That's a sin. You cannot spend that type of money and visually the movie look
It has
poor.
to look good. It has to look good.
The story might be bad, but you cannot have it visually look terrible like we've had the last few years.
Yeah. So that's what I caught.
Yeah, nice.
I'm interested to see where we're going with Marvel. I haven't watched Daredevil yet. I'm waiting for it to finish, but I've heard good things.
Here's the thing, though: no one's talking about Daredevil.
No,
and it's not charting well at all.
Well, I think the biggest problem with Daredevil right now is that they split the first season into 2 seasons. So you're getting all the world building.
Yeah,
and not a lot of fight scenes because everybody keeps complaining about the fight scenes.
Yeah, but the thing is, you canonized the first 3 seasons in Netflix, so you shouldn't have needed to do so much world building.
I know.
Because you should have made it so that people watch those first.
But the other problem is they did reshoots. So it was a very different show.
Oh, yeah.
Before.
Oh, most definitely.
So I think, and again, this is me being cautiously optimistic. Maybe this season isn't charting as much as, they had hoped. But if the next season, there's season 2, even though it's supposed to be season 1, if season 2 is filled with fight scenes and everybody's established now and it's still got the Netflix vibe, which is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
I think you'll see it chart.
I hope so. I mean, again, and we've said this a million times, we don't want to see these things fail like they are. We want them to be successful.
It does.
It's just that they have to start making changes.
Well, it feels like they are. At least from my perspective, it really does feel like they are. It feels like they went grittier with the Netflix show, which I think was the right decision. It feels like even though Captain America was a financial bomb, at least they're doing the things they need to do. Because again, you can't look at these movies as islands, right?
Right.
Because they're part of a bigger universe.
Right.
And so when I see these changes, right? When I see that Daredevil's grittier, when I see that Captain America's CGI is back on track, right? I go, okay, all right, hold on now. At least now we're making the changes we need to make to, once the writing gets back on track, at least all of the other groundwork has been laid. So when the heavy hitters start coming back in, what we're going to get, what we need to get. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Fantastic Four will be very telling. If it's a dud, I'm back to Marvel sucks.
Right, and that's the we got to get through Thunderbolts.
Right, Thunderbolts
we'll
for me is a little bit of a look over, just because there's just not enough there.
Well, the characters aren't appealing, enough where people are gonna care, right? I mean, these are really your a lot of low level characters that no one really cares all that much about. Yeah, you bring it in Sentry, but again, go back to the same thing. If there's 100 people in the audience, 5 of them know who Sentry is prior to coming into that movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
the other sin for Captain America was, and you had mentioned this when we were talking about the movie before I had seen it. The scene where that tiny little chick beat up all those guys.
You're right. Yeah.
So they do preface it saying she's an ex-widow.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, but the problem is she's too small.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like,
yeah, you could be trained.
Her being a Black Widow or whatever the agency is that shits them out. Helps. That helps me. I was like, okay,
sure.
You got me there, but she's almost too small. Like, she's very tiny.
Right.
It's almost too small where it's unbelievable.
Well, that's the thing. Regardless of how well you're trained and that you have the knowledge and ability to fight, your size matters. You can't just overpower a 250-pound man at 5'1". You can't.
Right.
You don't have the.
She's
your
tiny.
Strength will never be strong enough.
Right.
But if you said she was a mutant, now it's like, okay, she's got all these enhanced abilities. So it doesn't matter her size.
So I will say, like, at least from a lore standpoint, I think that was fine. I was like, okay, yeah, I get it now. That makes a lot more sense why she's able to go toe to toe. It was just the physicality of the actress playing the role she was just too small.
Right.
And so I think that kind of made me kind of chuckle because I was like, there's no fucking way.
Right.
But, you know, again, I'm willing to overlook that because at least they before, and they did it before, you know, instead of it being at like a throwaway line after or whatever. Yeah. So like that was okay. But let's talk about, I guess let's get into some, you know, we got and it was very weird, the casting for Doomsday. Mm-hmm. What a weird way to what a weird way to throw that out.
That was I thought that was ridiculous.
I remember like just catching glimpses of it online, and there was a guy live streaming it, and he's like, we're 40 minutes in, and I'm like, you're showing the back of chairs.
Right. Yeah, and that's all you got for 6 hours.
10 minutes with epic music to show the back of a chair. Yeah. It's just like, you could have... I think what turned me off about it was that's a 3-minute video that you turned into 6 hours.
Right. Exactly.
You know, it would have been cool if it was 3 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, again, hey, you tried to do what you could to keep people invested into watching it for the full 6 hours. And
yeah, but what the fuck? Don't make it a 6-hour stream.
Yeah, it was just at the end of it, people were like, fucking 6 hours for this. This was stupid. Like,
right, terribly executed.
Right, terribly executed.
But you know, I'm glad everybody's back.
Sure, but you know, at the end of the day, I think that the casting was so underwhelming.
It was just the way they went about it.
Well, no, I don't. I think even with the names announced, it was underwhelming to me. Like, yeah, and like, you're not. I am zero more interested in Doomsday than I was prior to that casting.
Well, I'm interested in Doomsday. I mean, I think I'm, you know, I'm hoping it is sort of a reignition of what we're looking for.
Well, see here, but you know, again, we got to look at the problem that the Russo brothers have had 2 massive bombs since Endgame.
The problem with the Russo brothers is they need structure.
Sure, but I'm just saying we have to. We can't just say the Russo brothers are back, therefore it's going to be a good movie when the Russo brothers have bombed spectacularly since leaving Endgame.
Okay.
So that is a caveat that I want to throw out there, that we're not guaranteed anything just because the Russo brothers are back.
No, I agree. I don't think we're guaranteed anything regardless of the Russo brothers, because Marvel has lost so much face over the last 5-6 years. But I think as far as the Russo brothers as filmmakers go, I think they did really well under Feige and those guys because of the structure.
Sure, and that might be true, and this might be a very good, you know, both of them might be very good movies. It's just that we can't just say it's a guarantee because of the Russos, because they've shown that they aren't tremendous filmmakers in general.
I think they work good under structure, but I don't think they're Scorsese level filmmakers by any stretch.
No. But when I looked at the casting though, I'm like, yeah, okay. Like I'm not excited for Doomsday.
What would have like really hyped you up?
I think that if you see, here's the problem. We don't know. Here's my thought, right? So let me preface this all. I think that Doomsday is going to be a closure of Fox, right? I think that's why we're getting the Fox X-Men.
Right. This is the final goodbye.
Right. And I think that Secret Wars is going to end the multiverse saga.
Good.
Right? So my thought is, you're going to get everybody in who at some point you're going to go back to your own. If you're going to go back to your own universe, you're going and you're gone now. If you die, you die. If you're a variant coming in, you're now that character, right? So if they're going to like, let's say T'Challa from a different universe comes in, that's T'Challa now.
Right.
He's now back.
Right, that's Black Panther.
That's Black Panther, right?
No more Universe A. It's just going to be, after all this closes out,
right.
This is what you're left with.
So I think we're going to get the X-Men that are going to be the X-Men. I think these X-Men are going to go, you're going to give them their farewell, and you're going to get the actual X-Men that are going to be in the MCU going forward. I think we're going to get back Iron Man. I think we're going to get back Captain America. I think we're going to see those characters come back. And this is the way to do that. Like I said, it's not going to be the Tony Stark that died. It's going to be a variant of Tony Stark, but it's going to be Tony Stark back in the MCU.
Right, at whatever level that means, but at least you didn't close the door on a character.
Right. So I think that I just think that the characters that they mention, though, are all your failures. Like, barring the Fantastic Four, because we haven't seen that yet, so we don't know. But we've got, all the Thunderbolts except for Taskmaster, which we know is going to die in Thunderbolts. But we don't really give a shit about any of those characters prior to Thunderbolts. Maybe we will. We don't care about Shang-Chi. We don't care about Shuri. We don't care about Namor. Like, all of the characters that they announced, we don't really give two shits about. Yeah, we're getting Loki and Thor back.
Right,
okay.
but I mean, I think
we've seen them enough.
I think the point of it was to say, hey, Thor's coming back, Loki's coming back, and they're playing the long game of who else is going to come back, type of thing.
Yeah, and I think everybody's going to come back at some point,
right?
Because you're going to have everybody for Secret Wars, and then, like I said, you're going to close off the multiverse. Like, yes, I'm expecting Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield to come back.
Yeah,
and I'm expecting at the end of Secret Wars, they're gone for good. That was it. You're never going to see them again in the MCU.
Right.
Right? That, like, those are the type of things I'm seeing. I think you're going to get back some characters. I think you're going to say goodbye to some characters. But maybe even, my hope is, and I know this isn't going to happen, but I would love to see, like, some of these characters die and be replaced. Like, I would love to see Namor die in a different Namor, which is actually Namor, come in. Like, because this character sucks. This actor didn't do a good job. It's not well received. Shang-Chi, no one gives a shit about. And Simu Liu is virtually hated by almost everybody. This is not a guy that most people like in anything that he does, and as a person. So, again, I don't want to see these characters. There's zero interest for me in these characters.
I think it's very telling, though, that you didn't see Brie Larson on there.
Yeah, because she's going to be the savior of Secret Wars.
Maybe.
She'll be in it.
I think if they do that, though, then you're just falling it back on the sins.
But you're not. You didn't see Miss Marvel, right? You know she's going to be in it. Because all of they're gearing up to do Young Avengers on Disney Plus, so they're all going to be there to save everybody at some point.
Well, we'll have to see.
Right?
I
mean,
and
like I said, we're going to get some of them. Some of the ones we want back, but. It's just like, but at the end of the day, I'm not, like, yeah, it's cool that you're going to, but I don't want fucking nostalgia again. We got nostalgia in No Way Home. We got nostalgia in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't want to keep on seeing your nostalgia. Like, if this is the final nostalgia and you're done with it, okay, at least there's that. But I don't want to fucking see, all of these. I just don't want to keep on seeing. I don't want Nick Cage coming back as Ghost Rider down the road. You know what I mean? Either he's your Ghost Rider and that's your guy.
No, I think we need to. I think the right path moving forward is to move away from the multiverse. It's just too. It's too much. It's too much. It creates too much confusion, and you're just. It didn't work.
No, it didn't work at all. But I also don't think that 90% of the characters on those chairs worked in phases 4 and 5. So, by showing those names, you didn't spark interest in anybody. All the people that didn't like those movies, why all of a sudden are they going to care about this?
No, like I said, I mean, I think
and let's be honest, Thor: Love and Thunder did a lot of damage to Thor.
Sure, but I'm excited that they're bringing Thor back because it gives me hope that they're going to bring back Captain America, and it gives me hope that they're going to bring back, if they're bringing back Loki, then maybe we will get some of the heavy hitters back in action and actually get to experience that.
Yeah, but also you've spoiled some of your other movies, right? Because every Thunderbolt but Taskmaster is back. So you know that Taskmaster is more than likely going to die in this movie. How did the Fantastic Four get there? They're in a different universe in a different time. Now they're there, so
Yeah, but you can't, you can't. Who cares? You can't play out that trope anymore. You've already done that.
No. But what I'm saying is, you've spoiled the ending of Fantastic Four because at some point they have to come into this universe at this timeline.
Right. But I've said to you, I think if their universe gets destroyed by Galactus, and great, that's how you get them in.
Right. But I get that how they can do it. But what I'm saying is, why did you need to show? Why couldn't you have held that off? Right, until after that movie, and then
I don't know, maybe just brand synergy.
Because no one's seen the Fantastic Four yet. What if everybody hates it? Then is anybody going to care that those characters are going to be in Doomsday? It's just that you did so many things that aren't going to matter. What you should have done is the X-Men.
I think they thought they were going to get a bigger hit than they actually did. But again, I think that could have been a 3-minute video.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It would have generated hype as a 3-minute video.
Yeah.
But to stretch it out over 6 hours is insane.
Right. And then to stretch it out over 6 hours and give us the names that we got didn't excite anybody. It really didn't. And even the X-Men that are coming back, it's like cool, but how many times are we going to go to the nostalgia well? Like, what are we going to do to stop that from happening? And I believe closing off the multiverse is going to be the answer.
Well, as long as that's the path that they take. I mean, and again, I'm okay with this, whatever you want to call it. If this is the biggest Avengers event ever, as long as, Downey can nail Doom.
Right.
Okay. I can get on board. I mean, again, like I said, I'm a little softer on Marvel right now because I'm seeing the changes that, and again, they're not where they need to be.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing changes. So instead of it just being like Star Wars where, fuck you, we're doing things the way we're doing them, at least I'm seeing changes in Marvel.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's great that you're, for the money you spend, you're bettering your CGI. That's good. You should be doing that, and I'm glad that they are.
But you're also
that
bringing
doesn't
back,
make a better movie.
But you're also bringing back characters that we actually care about too.
Well, not yet. You aren't.
Well, I mean, I want to see Thor back in full form. I want to see Loki in full form.
If they are,
right?
If they are,
right. And I'm not saying they're gonna be, but I guess if that's the path that they go down, and we actually get a proper Thor, a proper Loki, a proper Cap.
Here's my problem. My problem is from Thor and Loki to Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, I don't care about anything in between. I don't care about any of the characters in between them.
Yeah, but I think that's the point, right? Is that you had bookend characters, and then you just have the filler. And that's the way that I viewed it, was like, yeah, Shuri's back. Great. That's filler.
Right. But that's filler that isn't going to excite anybody. And that's my point.
I don't think it's meant to excite anyone.
I don't think they would have done a 6-hour chair show.
I don't think they should have done a 6-hour chair show.
But right, I agree with you, but what I'm saying is they did, and I don't think that they thought that it was just filler that people wouldn't care. I think that they thought people would lose their mind with what they were showing, and people didn't.
Yeah, but how could they think that?
Because they believe that those characters, even though they see the numbers, they see how these movies performed, they see the audience scores and how the audience feels. But the
thing is,
and yet they don't listen. They don't listen to the audience,
right? And again, we're just two guys talking on a podcast. However, we do have some insight into this because we go to comic conventions.
Right.
We work the Comic Cons. We work
Right.
it. We bring our art. So we see what people are cosplaying at these shows.
Yeah,
And we talk to people at comic book stores as well.
Right. And I don't see any Shuri Black Panthers. I never see any of that.
No.
I don't see Namor. I don't see any Thunderbolts. I don't see any of that stuff at Comic Cons. And look, we're not at New York or San Diego yet, but we go to the big ones in New England. We go to Rhode Island Comic Con, we go to Fan Expo. We go to all these bigger cons, and I don't see that stuff. No. I don't see people cosplaying as Shuri. I don't see people cosplaying as Shang-Chi. They just don't cosplay as those characters.
Yes, and there are some YouTube shows that go and look at the toys, right? And just the amount of these toys that are collecting dust at Ollie's discount where no one wants them are all these characters because no one wanted these toys either because no one cares about these characters.
The thing of it is they work fine. This is at least my viewpoint. They work fine as filler characters. Like you want to have your A team superheroes, your B team superheroes, and your C team superheroes. But your C team superheroes don't need movies.
No, and I'm okay I'm okay with Shuri in Black Panther, right? She's just T'Challa's sister, and
but she's important because she helps with the tech and she has her role.
But that was fine. That's fine. As Black Panther, it is a massive failure. You couldn't have failed more spectacularly with doing that.
And that's not a slight against Shuri as a character. That's just that, and this goes for Sam too. Love Sam as Falcon.
Yeah,
love him as Falcon.
Right, but no one likes him as Captain America, but that's proven. The data is there. The data has been there for many, many years through comics. The data and the fans are there to tell you this doesn't work. This will not work. Kevin Feige's ego would not allow it. He had to do it. And now that he did it and failed spectacularly, he won't admit failure. He doubles down on failure because his ego will not allow him to say...
Well, they changed Daredevil.
Now, look, I know they changed Daredevil, and it's still not working because it's not doing well in the ratings. But I get that you have certain contracts, right? That might be hard. You sign somebody. But... to me, you should have had Tom Holland on there. Spider-Man is always going to be a success, right? Not having Tom Holland...
Yeah, but that could be a contract thing, too, because Sony hadn't announced the new Spider-Man yet.
Right, but I'm just saying...
Well, now they have,
Now they have, yeah. But I'm just saying, as far as what's going to move a needle, Spider-Man is going to move a needle. Captain America, Steve Rogers will move a needle.
But
they
could still be working those contracts out.
Well, I think that they're going to appear in the Secret Wars. I don't think they're going to appear in Doomsday. Because to me, I think that Doomsday is going to be just like Infinity War. The bad guy wins. And then the good guys win in Secret Wars. And that's where you're going to get your Captain Marvels. And that's where you're going to get your Captain America and your Tony Stark and your Doctor Strange. They're going to all appear when it's time to win. These are the characters that are going to lose because these are the characters that no one gives a shit about. These are the disposable characters. But that doesn't make any excitement for people that people were going to care when you made those announcements. And that's the big failure here.
Yeah, it was definitely mishandled, for sure.
Without a doubt.
Like everything they do now.
Right.
But let's talk about one more mishandling.
Yes. And here's... I want to preface this by saying, and this goes back to Marvel, too. You own the IPs, and you can do whatever you want with the IPs. Legally, you have every right. But in this day and age, in 2025... you cannot sit there and make the excuses and play the blame game
like you've been doing, it doesn't. It rings hollow.
Well, I think what's happening, right? And I think this is industry wide. I think a lot of these larger corporations, a lot of these movie studios, are misinterpreting conservatorship over creativity.
Sure. But
just because you own something, doesn't mean that it's going to be, a home run.
Right.
If you make something that is creatively bankrupt,
which this is,
regardless of whether you have conservatorship over the IP or not, it's going to fail.
Right, but you cannot blame racism. You cannot blame sexism.
You need to stop mistaking conservatorship for creativity.
Right. So, again, you made a horrible movie.
By the way, we're referencing Snow White.
Yes. So, and so I want to put it to you like this. Take out everything that Rachel Zegler said. Right. Take it all out.
Right. Just right. If you pull her interviews out of the sphere.
So her casting was not met. It was met with a lot of groans, obviously, because they wanted to go diverse to a character that's not, right?
Yep.
Same with the Little Mermaid, right? Same thing. Little Mermaid.
But that being said, all of that being said, I don't think the casting in and of itself would tank a movie.
No. But here's my point, right? And I'm agreeing. That's why I'm saying what I'm saying by prefacing by saying take out everything she said. Little Mermaid did about $500 million, right?
Right.
Was a massive failure.
Right.
This movie will be lucky to get $200 million.
And just so we're clear with our listeners and everything, the current state of Hollywood is a movie has to break even has to double the budget.
The spend. Yep. Which includes marketing.
Right. Because you have to remember too, the theater gets their cut, marketing and everything is, costs what it costs. So there are other costs, and it's not like a pure profit driven machine.
Right.
Right.
So again, if the spend on Snow White is $300 million.
It has to make $600 to break even.
Then add in the marketing, right?
Right.
So $400. It has to make $800 million
to break
before
even.
It starts making profit.
Before they're making any money.
Right.
So if it doesn't make $800 million, so when we say massive failure, and you say, well, it made $500 million, how could it be a massive failure? It's a massive failure in the fact that, it costs them $300 million to make and $100 million on marketing.
So the Little Mermaid needed over $800 million to start turning profit.
Right.
And it
so if it only made $500,
a little over $500,
then it the way it goes on the books is that's a net loss of $300 million.
Right. So my point. So going back, Little Mermaid made about $500 million. Snow White will be lucky to make $200 million. Right.
Right.
If Rachel Zegler said nothing,
right,
do you think it would have made the 500-something million as Little Mermaid?
I think
because both stories were changed, altered tremendously, and both were not liked. So,
yeah, I think it would have made the $500 million.
I think Rachel Zegler cost Disney $300 million by speaking.
I think it would have made the $500 million. Like, nobody talks about Little Mermaid now.
No,
right?
It was a hated movie.
Right. Nobody.
People went because the casting of Halle Bailey was met by some, but that wasn't a overall.
No, that wasn't a make or break of the film.
And just like I don't think Rachel Zegler
was a make or break
because of her
ethnicity.
Casting with her ethnicity was not a make or break.
I agree.
I think both movies are creatively bankrupt. I think the changes are awful.
I agree.
I think the music is terrible, but I think that people would have checked it out to the level of $500 million like they did the Little Mermaid.
Right. It probably would have done about $500 million.
Yep. And it still would have lost hundreds of millions of dollars for sure.
And then faded into
obscurity, just like the Little Mermaid
did.
Rachel Zegler cost Disney $300 million.
Well, that's why she got fired.
Right. But that is the issue with these hirings. and hiring these activists and hiring the wrong people.
See, but I would even take it a step deeper, right? I would go a step deeper with just hiring activists or whatever. I think, and this is just me personally, Mark Hamill's very vocal about how he feels, right? But I think if you put him in a movie, he's going to do whatever he has to do. I don't think he's going to make a movie worse.
No, but as long as he's not, not that asshole while he's promoting that movie,
right? And I don't think he would be,
right? And because he's professional.
But the other half of it is, right, regardless of whether you agree or not with Mark Hamill, right? He believes what he believes.
Sure.
So I think the problem is that you're hiring someone like Rachel Zegler, who I don't for a minute believe anything that comes out of her mouth.
No.
I don't think she believes in the hypocrisy that she was spitting.
No.
And so at least if you hire someone, whether you agree with their political views or their morals or whatever, but they're true to their beliefs, you say, well, I don't agree with this person. They're, whatever. But if you hire someone that is clearly just jumping from cause to cause because it's in the zeitgeist at the moment, they come across as fucking fake.
Right.
And that's what she comes across as.
But also, and I've said this before, I think you can believe what you believe, right? And you could choose whatever side you want to choose. Telling the other side to go fuck themselves and don't come and support me or this movie is fucking insanity.
And then the other half,
I think that Mark Hamill, if he spouted that same shit and he was going to star in a Star Wars movie, it would fail, and because people would not support him. I don't care if you hate the other side. You don't tell the audience of the other side to go fuck themselves and don't come.
No, and I agree but I don't think Mark Hamill would do that while he was promoting a film.
No, and I think that he's professional and probably wouldn't and would be smart enough not to. Where this girl is not smart enough not to.
I think what's easy to forget at the end of the day is that this is a job.
Right.
This is a job.
Right.
And just because you're making millions of dollars, and just because there is that attention that maybe John Q. Public doesn't get, right? I think it's easy to forget that at the end of the day, you are an employee,
right,
of a company. And when you are on a press tour, you should be in line with that mentality,
right? Because
you can't hijack. Look, if you won an Academy Award and you wanted to use your time during the speech to push an agenda or whatever, that's your time. You do that. But when you're on the press tour,
right?
So aside for Cynthia Erivo, what is her name? Cynthia Erivo, yeah. You could say what you want about her, right? And she had a couple moments during the Wicked, debacle.
Yeah,
but she wasn't really flaming, anything during interviews and stuff. So
no, I mean, look, she comes across as very cringe. She comes across as very fake. She might have done a fantastic job in the movie, which is ultimately what a lot of people care about. But a lot of people can.
But even during the press tour, she had that moment that was bad for the.
She had a real bad interview with Ariana Grande. That was horrible.
That was bad. And then the Twitter thing about her, eyes being erased, I think was pretty bad.
That was
But for the most part, she was professional enough to keep it locked down.
But the thing is, it's not enough. That's not enough to alienate enough people. Rachel Zegler alienated everybody. She didn't just alienate a single side. She alienated everything about everything. And there was no one left that would like this person.
The other half of it is, right, is that, all you have to do is get on like a live stream or something, be like, look, these are my opinions. I'm a person. I'm allowed, maybe it wasn't the right place to say it or whatever. I really want you guys to check out the movie. Just be human. Be humble about it. You're very blessed to be in the position you're in. And instead of acting that way, no apologies, no admitting that it wasn't the right place to say that shit. No admitting that maybe you were being hypocritical. Just narcissistically pushing forward.
Yeah, but I think it's stupid though. I really do. I mean, you can have we know like the Avengers did that cringe video when they
the scene,
right? It's that. As much as I thought it was cringe, I'm not going to not watch a Marvel movie because of it, right? I think I can look at that and say that was cringe, but okay. These actors have got to stop getting it to the point where they're alienating audiences.
Right, especially when you're working. I mean, again, when you're not promoting a movie, if you want to have your opinions and stuff, that's, again, you're a person. You're allowed to do that. But when you're on a press tour, you can't, you have to understand that you are, and I'm sure it's hard because your head is huge,
right?
But you have to understand that, there is a parent company overseeing all of this, and if you do things to hurt their bottom line, there are going to be consequences.
Right. But the thing too is, though, you have to also understand that the more you do it, even if you aren't on a press tour, the more you do it.
Right, but that's just consequences to your actions.
Right,
like
but
if
you are going to start alienating people that might have given you a chance, but if you keep on coming across as so unlikable, and this Cynthia Erivo comes across as very unlikable.
Yeah,
she
but
does.
Here's the thing about Cynthia Erivo, right? She's got Wicked 2 lined up. I mean, I liked her in Outsiders. I thought she was good in Outsiders.
Sure.
So, I mean, like, if she gets roles, that's not going to bother me.
No, but it may not bother you.
Again, but here's the thing.
You can't say it's not going to bother a lot of people that might have gone to her movies that now won't.
But here's the thing, and I've said this to you before, is that because streaming is a thing and everything, it doesn't... what they say on social media or whatever when they're not promoting a film, that's in and out. I don't think it has the staying power that it used to.
No, because not everybody sees it either.
Right. So you don't alienate. I think you can have your opinions and say the things you want to say, and maybe it alienates people, and it will for a little while, and then it goes out of the public eye. But when you're on a press tour, you should be on your best behavior.
Right. Absolutely.
And it is a balancing act more so than it was in the past, because they want to see you be a human. They're going to ask you questions that aren't about the movie, but your job, part of those millions of dollars you're getting is to be able to achieve that balancing act and not come across as a total piece of shit.
Right.
Now, do I think this is going to end the career of Rachel Zegler? No.
No, because, I mean, there's always going to be Broadway for her.
Right.
That avenue is always going to be open.
I don't think it ends her film career either.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying there's always an avenue for her.
But I think she
could still work.
I think if she was smart, or her team was smart, they would say to her, when the next opportunity comes up, and it will, maybe dial it back.
Right. I mean, and make no mistake about it. Not that I would ever watch this movie, but from everything I've also heard.
Oh, I have every intention of watching it now. I have to.
Oh, yeah, maybe you're right.
I have to. It's one of those things where it's like...
Yeah, but everybody that's seen it also said Gal Gadot sucks.
Yeah,
like in most every movie that she's in.
Is that a surprise?
No. She's hated in most every movie she's in, other than Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Gal Gadot is a supermodel that got a fucking job as an actress.
Right.
She's not an actress.
No, so I'm saying that Rachel Zegler's acting... it's not just her fault. The acting was terrible in the movie.
I'm super
outside of her as well.
I'm so excited to see it now. like,
maybe.
The thing is because it's rated so bad, I'm super excited to see it.
I mean, this actually might go down as the biggest box office flop in history. So you're right. Maybe you have to watch it because this is maybe a once in a lifetime movie, the greatest Hollywood bomb ever.
Right, like they used to make fun of John Carpenter from Mars, dude.
John Carter, yeah.
John Carter from Mars. They used to make fun of that as like the biggest bomb, and it's just like I'm so excited to see this Snow White movie because of how bad. And look, here's the thing: at the end of the day, I don't know that it's a 1.3. Right? Or whatever it's sitting at right now. Because I know people are just I know people will just review bomb it because we hate Rachel Zegler, we hate diversity. But even if you give it +2, it's still a 3.3.
But the critics score makes me think it's that bad because they shill for Disney.
I know.
And for them to have it as low as they have it makes me believe that
I'm
deserves...
excited. I'm really excited to watch it. I can't wait till I get my hands on I don't know if I'll get a screener of this one. But if I do, I'm very excited about that. It's just one of those things for me that, I think it's funny that everyone is now recognizing how bad of an actor Gal Gadot is. Mm-hmm. Again, did it work in Wonder Woman? A little bit.
The first one.
Yeah.
The second one was glaringly obvious.
Right. You could play up the Amazonian aspect of it a little bit, and maybe that helps with the monotone. Mm-hmm. But they're saying in this Snow White one, there's a scene where she sounds like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. I mean, again, it's she's not a great actress by any stretch of the imagination, nor is Rachel Zegler.
No, although they did say that from what I've heard, Rachel Zegler is probably one of the better actors in this film.
Sure. But, overall, her movies have been awful. Like, everything that she's been in has typically been
Rachel Zegler has a decent voice. I wouldn't say it's anything crazy.
But I think her voice is good enough where Broadway will always be open to her.
And I think that's a much better fit for her anyway.
Yeah,
because I think she gives off really, really hard theater kid energy.
She does.
And I think Broadway will be a good spot for her. I mean, I don't think she'll give up on the movie thing, and I'm sure there'll be work for her.
No, there'll be another opportunity, and there's talk of moving her to Marvel, and I'm sure Kevin Feige will do it because his ego is going to be like, hey, I can fix this girl.
I don't know, because there's that whole thing where Disney fired you.
True. I mean, I don't think that they would allow it.
I don't think she's going to Marvel.
No, I don't think so now. There was a rumor before the firing.
Right. I think the
now
fact that
probably
she got,
not.
The thing is, right, is it's one of those things where, and again, I don't know if it's just because she is younger. Like, I'm not shitting on her because she's younger, but I think it's one of those things that she didn't really understand that you can come off as unlikable, and if your movie's a hit, fine. But understand what coming off as unlikable means. That puts you at risk, because if your movie bombs and you came off, if your movie bombs and you come off as likable, nobody's calling for Halle Bailey's head.
No. I mean, she. People are talking about potentially her being Storm, and I'm like, fine, that works.
Nobody's coming for Halle Bailey's head.
No,
and
it wasn't her fault that Disney, you made a terrible movie.
Right,
not because of her. Right. You made a terrible movie.
Right.
This movie was also terrible.
And that's
even
not
worse than The Little Mermaid.
That's not Rachel Zegler's fault.
Nope. This movie would have still bombed if that was Halle Bailey as Snow White. This movie would have bombed to the same level as Little Mermaid, because of how poor this movie was, the CGI, the story, the music, all of it.
You could have gotten a top tier actor playing Snow White, right? And the movie still would have bombed.
You would have.
It's not the actor.
Right. Let me put it to you this way: if this movie does $200 million, right? Jenna Ortega gets the role. $600 million?
Yeah, maybe, but it's
not $1 billion.
No,
not $1 billion, because this movie is still going to suck,
and it still bombs.
Right, and that's still bombs.
That's
because
the point.
Jenna Ortega would very likable. Jenna Ortega would have, again, you could have your diversity, right? Same ethnicity, right? Better actress, but this movie was so poorly done. It was going to be a massive bomb.
Right. It doesn't matter
because of Rachel Zegler.
Right.
Rachel Zegler killed this movie
I do think,
by at least $300 million more than it should have.
I think if nothing else, younger actors need to look at this and say, okay, what we say on the press tour does have consequences. Mm-hmm. So we really need our media training team to be on point and our PR team to be on point, because what we say on these tours matter.
Right.
And they do, because again, do I think that if Zegler had a flawless press campaign that this movie would have done $1 billion? No. But do I think it would have done more than $200 million? Yes, because there is that thing where, because she came across the way she did, at least, not that I was going to the theater to see it, right? But there was that mentality of a lot of people of fuck her.
Right, absolutely. And, again, these younger generation needs to remember, people of their age, they're not the ones going to your movies. They don't support your movies. They don't care about your movies. You're looking at a much older audience.
I would take it even a step further, in that it's so much more important to be likable, because younger people care about who you are as a person,
right, more
than, Tom Hanks could be a piece of shit, but people will go see Tom Hanks movies. You know what I mean?
And from all sounds of it, Tom Hanks is a piece of shit.
Right. But I guess my point is...
But there's no Tom Hanks movie that, came out in the 80s that I wouldn't rewatch 100 times to this day.
And my point to it is that, the older generations, I think, are more willing to look past whether or not you're a piece of shit if you're good at acting.
Right.
I think with younger generations, and again, I'm kind of somewhere in the middle, so I kind of get both sides of the spectrum. I think it matters more whether you're a piece of shit or not. And if you do come across as a piece of shit, those younger generations don't want to go.
Right.
Like, I don't want to support someone that's a piece of shit.
And you also have to remember, you're in a movie, and talking about this specific movie, you're in a movie that your generation doesn't care about. They're not going to go see it. They're not going to support it.
Yeah, but here's
because
the thing,
they don't care about princesses. But if you come across, Disney princesses,
but if you come across as likable, you will get a subsection of the audience that wants to support you.
Sure, but still not enough. What I'm saying is,
it's a fail either way.
Right, you needed parents to take kids that might be into princesses, and parents are going to listen to the way you acted and the things you said, and they're going to be like, hell no, I'm not going to take my kid to go see that. And now you've lost the majority of your audience, because that is the bigger audience that you'd be attracting. You're not attracting 18 to 25-year-olds to go see Snow White. That's not your core audience.
Let me get one more thought out before we wrap this up. It's okay. It's okay to tell a love story.
It most definitely is okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't all have to be like a girl boss, girl finding herself, girl turning into the leader she's meant to be. It's okay to tell a love story.
That's what people wanted to see.
What's the matter with that?
Right. And that's what Snow White is all about. That's what people who like Snow White wanted to see.
The mistake of it is, and this is to Rachel Zegler too, directly. You thought it was about a prince saving Snow White, and that's not what it's about. It's about true love.
Right.
That's what it's about. And so instead of focusing on the fact that, these are two people that were destined to be together, they love each other, it had to be, the prince had to sweep in and save her. No, her partner, her true love partner, when she was down, came and helped her. Just if he was down, she would help him.
What if it was another woman?
Then fine.
But
irrelevant.
The story the same.
Irrelevant.
Right, but this is my point. The story the same, True Love's kiss. It just
instead of a princess.
Right.
Irrelevant. It
would have worked.
Would have worked.
Would have worked because the story. Now again, there would have been some people that would have had a problem with it.
Shitheads would have had a problem.
It is what
it
is.
Right. Anybody that has a problem with that.
The story was finding true love and True Love's kiss, saving you. You know, it not saving you. It obviously physically it did, but at the end of the day, it's rescuing you from
finding
the world and being together.
But it's a thing that's so human, and that's why it works. Is gay, straight, trans, whatever you are, you know, you want to find your partner or partners. Like that's what it's about.
And they're there to and that's who you have for the rest of your life to lean on.
Right, they pick you up. Right. They save you. It's not about a prince saving a princess. It's about that human need for connection.
Right.
And to take that element out of the story, it's just another fucking girl boss story finding herself.
That's all you did. And the thing is,
I don't need anybody.
Right.
Fuck everyone. And I'm not for nothing. Okay. Catalyst was not built by me. Catalyst was built by tons of people. Okay? I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you and the people that have helped along the way.
Well, Catalyst was an idea we had sitting in our car shooting the shit with each other.
It's just
and that was also because we talked to other people and
but I'm just saying. I'm saying the business as a whole, right?
No.
There are people that have every step of the way. Other people have helped build this to where it is, and it's not.
But that's because we talked to those people, and they shared a vision.
But the thing is that I couldn't have built this alone. No one can build anything alone. To sit there and say I'm a girl boss, fuck everybody else. I don't need anyone.
Right.
That's not how reality works.
No, exactly. Because you always, again, having one singular vision is how you're destined to fail. Because again, if something doesn't work and you don't have a second idea, you're fucked. You need other people to give you something to lean on.
My point to it
assist.
is that anyone that says fuck everybody else, I'm the guy or girl or whatever. That's not a person you want to get behind.
No.
That's not someone that can help build and bring, everybody brings everybody up together. It's not, this girl boss shows up. She's the greatest thing that's ever come into history, and all she had to do was find herself. Fuck that. That's not reality.
Right.
That's not reality. And that goes for men, too.
Right.
There's no man boss who built himself up and fucking all he had to do was find himself.
Well, you know how quickly people would turn on you? Like, yeah, you could have the big happy ending at the end of that. In reality, those same people that were dancing in the streets would be killing you.
You sound like the queen.
Right, you are. That's what you are. You usurped her power to put in your own.
Right, and that's the point of it, is that when you make these statements, when you make these things, the prince could be entirely cut. It's Hollywood, baby.
Right.
Like, you sound like the queen.
Right.
You sound like the villain of the fucking film you're pitching.
You are exactly who people don't want to get behind and support. And we've seen the failure of these girl boss movies for years and years, and Disney doesn't learn their lesson.
No, there's a difference between having a woman leader and a girl boss.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
That TV series, The Vikings, has very, very strong women roles in that, right? And they work awesome, and nobody has any issue with it. A girl boss who is at the top of the tower, and it's lonely at the top, fuck that.
Well, that's the difference between Black Widow and Captain Marvel. Black Widow became, at Endgame, was essentially the leader of the Avengers at that point.
Right, willing to give her life to save the universe.
That's different than, hey, I just showed up, I'm the best, I can defeat, and she even said in the line, what makes it different? Because you didn't have me. who the fuck are you? You know, like you just came here and I'm the best that there's ever been.
But that's the thing about Superman in the comics. He's the best. But what makes the comics interesting is everyone else, is the fact that he doesn't discount everyone beneath him.
Right.
You know? And I think you lose that with a lot of this new age shit. I really do.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, numbers don't lie.
Right.
So
exactly.
I'm very excited to watch Snow White.
Yeah, now that you put it that way, I think you have to.
I have to
you
see
have
it.
to watch it now.
I have to see it.
Right.
I just need to see the car crash. Like I do. I can't help myself.
Right.
All right. Let's close this one out. That's episode 109 of The Corner. Jim, as always.
Yeah, pleasure.
What do you got going on?
Getting the art out, you know, just check the socials every week for dropping some new drawings
saw the
every
Hobbit.
week.
I saw a little bit of Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah. You know what? Real quick, you know, I caught the Rankin Bass 1970.
Wild.
Right.
Wild.
I love it. I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
It came on. I watched it.
Like really good animation for what it is. Yeah.
Awesome. But, you know, Rankin Bass, always top, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, you know what? It's so inspiring to me. I had to put it down on paper.
Yeah.
But just check the socials out every week. You're gonna see new artwork. So check that out and drop a like or a comment if you enjoy it.
It helps. It does help. It helps
Absolutely.
us kind of, you know, keep going. All right, guys. So that's 109 of The Corner. You know where we're at. CatalystCrafting.com is the main website. Catalyst Creations NH is the Etsy store. We're at Manchester Craft Market in the Manchester Mall in New Hampshire. In Manchester, New Hampshire. But what do you guys think? I mean, did you see Hellboy? Was it bad? Was it good? Was it a step in the right or wrong direction? What did you think of Transformers 1? I mean, are you excited for Transformers 2 is what I want to know.
Yes.
What's your favorite Popeye horror movie?
And there's more than one.
Yeah, you have your choices. Let us know about that, like, because I need some feedback on that. Did you catch Captain America? I mean, do you agree with my take on it? Do you think that I'm out of my mind? It's the greatest Marvel movie since Endgame. Like, what do you think about that? Were you excited about the Doomsday announcement, or do you think it was kind of a weird way for them to do it and lackluster, or do you think it was spot on and Disney's nailing it? And what are your thoughts on Snow White and the Rachel Zegler controversy? I mean, do you agree with us? Do you think that her mentality hurt the movie, or do you think that it was doomed from the beginning? Let us know in the comments. All right, crew. We'll catch you on the next one.